کهکشان مقاومت ایران 1403 تظاهرات هموطنان در برلین و اجلاس جهانی 3 روزه ایران آزاد در پاریس 9 تا 11 تیر به رغم توطئه‌ها و تشبثات و زدوبندهای همه جانبه حکومت آخوندی.
سخنرانی های سفیر رابرت جوزف، معاون پیشین وزیر امور خارجه آمریکا، دکتر برکات عوجان، وزیر فرهنگ اردن 2013، ملکرت، نماینده ویژه دبیرکل ملل متحد در عراق 2011، ماریوس ماتیوشایتیس، عضو کمیته خارجی پارلمان لیتوانی، آتیلا آراکواکس، عضو کمیسیون خارجه پارلمان اروپا از مجارستان.
3 ژوئن 2024 10 تیر 1403
We're going to stay with supporters in the United States now. And I would very much like to welcome the former Undersecretary of State for Arms Control, who has championed the aspirations of the opposition, represented by those here, striving for a free, democratic, and non-nuclear Iran. Ambassador Robert Joseph.
سفیر رابرت جوزف به جای برخورد با رژیم به عنوان سر و تامین کننده تروریسم بین المللی، کشورهای غربی به دنبال خطای بزرگ مماشات بودند. این باید متوقف شود. طرح 10 ماده‌ای که توسط صدها قانونگذار، نماینده کنگره و سناتور در آمریکا و در سراسر جهان تایید و ستوده شده، باید راهنمای آینده ما باشد. رهبری الهام بخش شما خانم رجوی شاخصی است راهگشا برای کانونهای شورشی در خط مقدم که با به خطر انداختن جان خود در سراسر شهرهای ایران می جنگند. شما امروز در حال ساختن تاریخ هستید.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here with you. Let me begin with a quote from President Harry Truman, who once said that great men, that's right, great men make history, not the other way around. Well, Madam Rajavi, you are a great woman, and you are making history today. Your inspirational leadership, your vision, your personal courage serves as a beacon to many different audiences, to those in the resistance units in the front line fighting at the risk of their own lives across the cities of Iran, to the entire Iranian people who yearn for freedom, and to the international community who support you in your historic struggle. For 45 years, the Iranian people have suffered unspeakable brutality, and have been denied the fundamental human rights, the universal rights of all men and women. These rights were the centerpiece of the Declaration of Independence in my own country 248 years ago this week. Achieving these unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness has been sought by many others, providing the aspiration for people around the world who have achieved the overthrow of despots and dictatorships for over 2 centuries. These are the same freedoms that the people of Iran demand. And these are the freedoms that they will achieve when they once shake off the yoke of repression. The brave men and women will accept nothing less, even if it requires the ultimate sacrifice on their part. The pressure in Iran, the pressure has been building and building, and it is simply too much. The people have had enough, and it is time for action. It is the task of all civilized nations to support the Iranian people in their fight for freedom. In doing so, they must reject the insidious disinformation conveyed by useful idiots in and out of government, often bought and paid for by the regime. Instead of treating the regime for what it is, the indisputable leader and supplier of international terrorism and the mass murderer of its own citizens, Western nations in particular have pursued the policy, I call it the fallacy, of appeasement, and this must stop. The entire international community must stop being the lifeline that sustains the evilness that for far too long has oppressed the Persian nation. Instead, Western nations should remain loyal to their moral principles. They should practice what they preach. They should act in their own national security interests. They should express moral support for those inside and outside of Iran seeking to end the regime and assist in many other ways in order to accelerate the collapse of the regime by exposing its pervasive brutality and corruption and by exasperating through effective sanctions and other means the internal contradictions, especially the fissures between the people and the ruling medieval elite. On this, all nations should demonstrate their political support for the democratic opposition and call for a free, democratic, secular, and non-nuclear Iran, as stated in the 10-point plan. This plan, which is endorsed and applauded by hundreds of parliamentarians, congressmen, and senators in my own country and around the globe, should be the guidepost for our future. Madam Rajavi, thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. We will now welcome the delegation from Jordan, and speaking for them, delighted to welcome the former Minister of Culture, staunch ally of the Iranian people and resistance. Please welcome Dr. Berkat Ujjan and the Jordanian delegation.
دکتر برکات عوجان وزیر فرهنگ اردن 2013. مردم ایران شایسته بهترین ها، پیشرفت و شکوفایی هستند. شورای ملی مقاومت ایران شایسته ترین برای کمک به مردم شجاع و مبارز ایران است.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الجمع الكريم من كافة بقاع الدنيا أحييكم، فالسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته في زمن يعوزه السلام. يسعدني أن أكون مشاركاً في هذا المؤتمر العالمي المهم، وأتقدم بمشاعر التقدير لكل القائمين عليه: السيدة الفاضلة المناظرة مريم رجوي، التي شغلت المهتمين بالحرية وجذبتهم بما تفرد به من سمات شخصية وبما قدمته للشعب الإيراني بل وللعالم من رؤية ديمقراطية حقيقية، فقد استندت إلى ثقافة معرفية نضالية عز نظيرها. تحية احترام لك وتقدير سيدتي، وإنني أتفق تماماً بكل ما تفضلت به السيدة مريم رجوي. مثقفي وسياسيي منطقتنا يرفضون بشكل قاطع ما يرتكب من ظلم وفظائع في أنحاء هذه المعمورة. وفي الشرق إيران الحضارة والعراقة تجد الملالي يستبيحون الحرية والعدالة ويصدرون الثورة، فحرقوا الأخضر واليابس في العراق وسوريا واليمن، ويحاولون إثارة الفتنة أيضاً في وطني، ولكن هيهات ذلك. كلنا يعي تماماً أن الشعب الإيراني العريق يستحق الأفضل ويستحق التقدم والازدهار، ولكن بوجود هكذا نظام الملالي لا تستقيم هذه الأمور ولا يعم السلام. فهذا النظام يبث الفوضى ويزعزع الاستقرار الإقليمي ويتدخل في شؤون الدول المجاورة عبر وكلائه. فلماذا يراهن الغرب على هذا النظام؟ وقد تكلمت السيدة رجوي أن هناك محاباة من قبل دول الغرب لهذا النظام في الموضوع النووي وغيره. والحقيقة التي لا مرأى فيها أن المجلس الوطني للمقاومة الإيرانية هو المؤهل لتقديم العون للشعب الإيراني المناضل الباسل. والحقيقة أن عصابات تهريب المخدرات التي تقوم فيها الميليشيات المرتبطة ارتباط وثيق بنظام الملالي تحولت في الأردن إلى جريمة منظمة في الحدود الشمالية من الأردن، وذلك بدعم واضح من ميليشيات دول الجوار، متمنيا لكم أن تهتز ضمائركم وقلوبكم للحقيقة الناصعة. وشكرا جزيلا، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you to Jordan for their strong solidarity. Now have the pleasure of welcoming here from the Netherlands. Please welcome former UN Special Representative, Mr. Adrianus Melkert.
ملکرت، نماینده ویژه دبیرکل ملل متحد در عراق 2011. 45 سال وعده‌های دروغین، سرکوب و ترور عزم شما را نشکسته است. همانطور که در اشرف و لیبرتی شاهد بودم و همانطور که امروز با طرح 10 ماده‌ای برای تغییر شاهد آن هستی.
Madam Rajavi, dear friends from Ashraf, dear colleagues, let me first of all commend you for persevering in forcefully advocating the cause of justice and democracy in Iran and bringing together once more this broad global coalition in support of the numerous calls by the United Nations to stop the gross violations of human rights that continue to this day and to hold the perpetrators accountable. The recent Secretary General's report on the human rights situation in Iran presented at the 56th session of the UN Human Rights Council underscores the severe restrictions on human rights defenders, journalists and artists, as well as institutionalized gender discrimination against women and girls. It also draws attention to the alarming rise in executions, with at least 834 people executed in 2023, marking a 43% increase from the previous year. When will this stop? The United Nations Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in Iran, Javad Rehman, has recently raised the possibility to consider the mass executions of political prisoners in the 1980s as genocide and crimes against humanity. What more is needed to act? The UN Independent International Fact-Finding Mission on Iran concluded earlier this year that, I quote, pervasive and deep-rooted structural and institutionalized discrimination against women and girls permeating all areas of their public and private lives was both a trigger and an enabler of the widespread serious human rights violations and crimes under international law committed against women and girls in the Islamic Republic of Iran. It calls on the UN member states to, I quote, explore avenues for international and domestic accountability outside the country, end of quote. However, I'm concerned that we see hesitation and backtracking on international pledges to stand up for justice, as is illustrated by the recent release of Hamid Nouri by the Swedish government, despite his life imprisonment sentence for involvement in the 1988 mass executions, and the earlier release of Assadollah Assadi by the Belgian government. These facts play into the hands of the Iranian regime's hostage-taking tactics. The horrific attack on former member of the European Parliament and staunch supporter of the Iranian people, Alejo Vidal-Quadras, has been yet another testimony of a ruthlessness that cannot be tolerated by the international community. I stand here today in solidarity with all those that suffered and are suffering the loss and the pain inflicted by a regime that crushes the future of its population. 45 years of broken promises, oppression and terror have not broken your resolve, as I have witnessed in Ashraf and Liberty, and as we are witnessing today with the 10-point plan for change. This gathering today is therefore highly necessary to reiterate the need to support all those who are vying for a different Iran, enabling especially the many millions of young people to express their voice in freedom and to meet their aspirations in a country that will be democratic, open to the world, and upholding international law. And this gathering underscores that the opposition inside and outside Iran stands ready to bring back Iran as a trusted partner in promoting peace and prosperity in the country and in the wider region. I therefore commend you and your movement to persevering in leading the campaign for change, change that is at hand. Thank you.
So, we do have so many people and friends who are scheduled to speak here, and very pleased now to welcome the delegation from Lithuania. Next speaker has called the resistance units a beacon of hope in Iran. Please do welcome Member of Parliament and Member of Foreign Affairs Committee, Marius Matijasaitis, and the Lithuanian delegation.
ماریوس ماتیوشایتیس، نایب رئیس کمیته امور اروپایی پارلمان لیتوانی. ما به همراه همکارانمان مفتخریم که برای اولین بار اکثریت پارلمان لیتوانی را برای حمایت از طرح 10 ماده‌ای مریم رجوی جمع‌آوری کنیم. می‌خواهم تبریک بگویم به کانون‌های شورشی شما، به اپوزیسیون که اینقدر سازمان یافته، با انگیزه و با اراده هستند. این مرا بسیار تحت تأثیر قرار داد. به همین دلیل همچنان حمایتم را ادامه می‌دهم.
Madam Maryam Rajavi, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished everybody. My name is Marius. There's 4 Lithuanian members of the parliament with me together. Arminas Lydeka, also Lusko Savickas, and a signatory of Independence Act, Emanuelis Zingeris, you've heard. So we managed, together with other colleagues, thank you. We are very proud that we managed for the first time to collect majority of our parliament supporting this 10 points plan by Maryam Rajavi, so 73 signatures is there. Why it is so? Let me tell you a little bit about Lithuanian experience. Lithuanians as well, you will recognize some things, has been tortured, raped, abused, exploited, killed, mass murdered. But they gave a chance for me and more experienced colleagues to continue to build Lithuania, to continue our modern democracy that can be proud nowadays for the standard of human rights, the standard of the rule of law, and gender balance, gender equality, the quality of life that we still improving, freedom of religion, and the unprecedented opposition for the appeasement politics that we fight against all the time. Here are the same goals from you repeatedly that you want to succeed, achieve these things as well. So I want you to wish all of the best to do so ASAP. Quite recently I've heard a song, it's called Devil is Alive. But actually that song is lying because devil is alive. It's alive in the souls and the actions of the rulers of the regime of Iran. So I'll not go into details, I will not list all of the evil. But what do we do with the evil, with the devil? Do we fight against it? Do we try to live with it? Do we put it somewhere far away? Do we tolerate it? Or do we try to put in prison, stand against the court, as my colleague Emanuelis Zingeris suggested, I suggest as well. But there's a dilemma, what do we do with the devil? Is to open our eyes, the way we are with the eyes open here in this room, that we all of us speak against appeasement. We all speak against the willingness to have democratic, peaceful societies among our beautiful countries. It doesn't matter in Europe, Middle East, Latin America, Africa, Asia, Australia, North Korea, anywhere. So this is a goal to open our eyes and to stop arguing about nonsense and small things, to have conferences like this more and more. This is my third time here at the Free Iran World Summit. I'm very proud to be here on the stage for the second time, but the first time in this kind of stage. The second option is to be in solidarity, in a complete solidarity among democracies. And so, but actually, I want to give compliments to your resistance unit. to you, the opposition, so organized, so enthusiastic, with such a will. So it impressed me a lot. It impressed me a lot. That's why I keep coming here, keep supporting free Iran.